Hey yo, it's Retro. Welcome to another video, y'all. So y'all see the title. Y'all see the title. Yeah, man, I've been a big hater of Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman, Marco Cicchetto, and David Messina. And last time I spoke about this series at all was issue number 10, almost a year ago. And at that point, I felt like the plot was moving so extremely slow that I began to lose all of my interest. Really, that would have been enough to make me drop it, but I also just didn't find Peter and MJ interesting, like, at all. I thought the allegory for Peter being this millennial who had a steady and safe job in life for a while, but wanting more was interesting, but it just wasn't ever explored since then. MJ is another issue entirely where I feel like her agency in the series has been non-existent. She has no involvement in this series for most of this series, and at times you could honestly remove her entirely from this comic as a character, as a integral part of this series, and nothing really changes. Like, nothing. You don't get a change in story whatsoever. At first, the plot and Peter and MJ, the two main characters, weren't the reason I found any enjoyment in this series at all. Funnily enough, it was Harry Osborn, the Green Goblin, Gwen Stacy, and Ben Parker, and J. Jonah Jameson as well. All four of those characters were the main reason I gave a little bit of a fuck about this series. But then, Ultimate Endgame was announced, the big event that this whole Ultimate Universe has been leading up to, the return of the Maker. So I decided to just let the series stack a bit, and I decided, why not take a look at this series almost a year later? And I know some of y'all are gonna come to this and like, how can you doubt Jonathan Hickman of all people? And I'm like, look, bro, I know Jonathan Hickman. This is not my first time reading his comics. I'm true to this. All right, I'm not new. I've been reading his comics since Avengers/New Avengers. I've read everything he's put out except for like Black Monday Murders, which some of y'all definitely don't even know about, which is okay. Why is he doing that? But he's a slow burn writer, Jonathan Hickman is. And that's why I never really wrote off this series. I just always came to the conclusion it wasn't for me. And that's okay. It's not for me. The series is a hard sell for me. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I love Peter and MJ being married as much as the next one, but this new Ultimate Universe is, well, new. Like, I hardly know this new Peter and MJ, so off the bat, I feel disconnected. There are attempts to make the reader care and like MJ, of course, but were those attempts successful? Not to me, at least. And that is shocking because this series had one of the best first issues ever. An issue that introduces us to the world and life of this family man, Peter Parker, who works for the Daily Bugle, has 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and a wife in Mary Jane Watson. J. Jonah Jameson loves him like he's his uncle. And while Uncle Ben and Aunt May still raised Peter Parker from a young age, Aunt May is the one who died first from the explosion that was set off in the Maker's Bubble City. This is all set up, and the details aren't terribly important to the story of Ultimate Spider-Man as a series, so just take that at face value. I'll revisit that another time, but the story of Ultimate Spider-Man surrounds the main cast that we all know and love, just with some pretty significant changes. Most notably, of course, outside of all of this, is the fact that Peter never became Spider-Man. Peter Parker finally got the life he always wanted. We've all watched the movies, the shows, or read the comics. Like, the biggest dramatic struggle Spider-Man has always had was juggling his responsibilities as a young superhero along with his normal life. Something he's never really been able to do because he became Spider-Man at 15. He never really had a normal life. But now that's out of the way, and yet Peter still felt something was missing. A feeling that is very poignant by the Ultimate's mission, restoring the life that was taken by the Maker in an attempt to create a universe in his image. Peter's been able to cultivate the life this character has never had, while also feeling a part of this life has been taken from him. And while he has this feeling, he gets a package from this universe's Tony Stark, an orb with a message. Very ominous, I'm telling you. Detailing the machinations of the Maker. And if you are new, you don't know who the Maker is. The Maker is the original Ultimate Universe. We had Reed Richards. right? The Fantastic Four in the original Ultimate Universe. That Reed Richards became a villain. He became the Maker, and he's been a multiversal like threat who's been going between universes, coming to the main universe to terrorize that universe. And now he's created a new Ultimate Universe, his machinations. This orb with Tony Stark talking details what the Maker has done and the fact that he has taken the life he was supposed to live. And Tony Stark gives him the opportunity to reclaim his destiny as Spider-Man. A moment that swells into a dramatic ending for a first issue. It's an amazing issue. And the rest of the series kind of just feels like it's spinning its wheels as we skip time a month every issue, as we see Peter learn to be Spider-Man with the powers he was given, while also seeing the conflict between the city and Kingpin and everything like that. He meets Harry Osborn as Green Goblin and even teams up with him as they wage a war against Kingpin and his cabal on the front lines. This sounds a lot more grand than it really is. Hickman is a master at using dialogue very well, and the very first time Peter and Harry meet, it's wonderful. Even Ben Parker and Jameson's defect from the Daily Bugle due to the Kingpin forcing their higher-ups to only produce propaganda in favor of Kingpin or not related to him is an amazing issue. And we even get a moment where Ben and Jameson, their whole issue, they have a whole issue to themselves, creating their own newspaper site, The Paper, to directly oppose Kingpin, to sow doubt in the people. This was one of the greatest revelations up to this point, and the build-up to Ben and Jonah publishing their first article is amazing, and they do it under the alias of Ben Reilly, which I did talk about in my review for issue number 10, which is the name Ben Reilly is just an obvious nod to Peter's clone in the main 616 Earth. Ben Reilly there isn't actually a clone of Ben Reilly in this universe, but this will bite Ben and Jonah in the ass later. Overall, this entire series up to issue 12 is the conflict between Peter and Harry opposing Kingpin and his allies physically, while Ben and Jonah oppose him publicly in the paper. This is at first a lot of moves made against Kingpin, and because we skip a month every issue, it's obvious Hickman is very purposeful with that format, using it to obviously show us that Kingpin is backed against the corner as a sleight of hand. Then he and Kraven finally make a move, and that's what brings us to issue 12, the Christmas issue where Peter and MJ's family are celebrating Christmas. At first, it seems like a bit of a showcase for MJ's family, particularly her sister, who we're introduced to, and at first it seems like the perfect place to do that, until we get to the end of this issue. See, throughout this issue, we notice Peter's presence is lacking, more than it usually is in this series. Almost absent-minded, really. See, you remember when Peter was given that orb from Tony, like I said earlier? That also included both a substance to give him powers and a suit made of pico matter to assist him in crime fighting. This would form into his spider suit. At first it was black, it was just like an all black suit, but then it became like a spider suit. Pico matter is not something specific at all. It's not like some hidden thing that's going to be something, but it does resemble a symbiote material, and it does have a consciousness, but it's not a symbiote. It's not a Clintar at all. So along with it resembling a symbiote, it also, like I said, matches Peter's brainwaves to have a consciousness and further assist him while fighting crime. So much so, this pico matter thing has been posing as Peter and reveals itself to MJ as this Christmas story ends. And then the epilogue shows Peter and Harry in a dungeon chained up and battered. Now, the symbiote didn't do this free of will. Peter and the symbiote did have a bit of a agreement, basically, that if anything were to happen, he would step in, or the suit thing would step in and kind of just keep the peace, basically. So yeah, that's happening, and that was a really great setup for a cliffhanger as we go into the beginning of Ultimate Kraven's Last Hunt in issue 13. A 2-issue mini arc where we find out Kraven and the Mole Man have kidnapped Peter Parker and Harry Osborn, brought them to the Savage Lands, and Kraven is preparing them for a hunt. This does pick up on a bit of a plot point that was happening, I think, in the issues leading up to issue 12. I think it was like 11 and 10, around there, something like that. Harry Osborn was missing, and Peter was trying to fight crime. I think it was issue 11 specifically. Issue 11, Peter Parker was like fighting crime and he was trying to team up with Harry Osborn and he couldn't find him. Otto Octavius was also in this, you know, the new Ultimate Otto Octavius, who works for Harry Osborn, didn't know where he was either. So yeah, this picks up on that. This whole time, Kraven had Harry Osborn, and then he subsequently kidnapped Peter. In this, they're in the Savage Lands, like I said. There are some rumblings between Mole Man and Kraven about this not necessarily being approved by Kingpin, and Kraven not caring because he wants to hunt them. This bit is pretty interesting as it kind of shows how little control Kingpin has over the other villains he works with. Mole Man here is no more than a bystander as he claims control over the Savage Land and is kind of just supervising Kraven as he hunts Peter Parker and Harry Osborn. And he's just making sure that Kraven doesn't let loose on the creatures that Mole Man cares about. If you've read Kraven's Last Hunt, this is not that. I'm gonna be real, like, this is not Kraven's Last Hunt really, but it is interesting. The original Kraven's Last Hunt was a dramatic, operatic battle of wills between Kraven and Spider-Man, where eventually Kraven defeats Spider-Man, buries him, and it takes his will and love for Mary Jane to unearth himself, hunt down and defeat Kraven, only for Kraven to kill himself in the end. But it was an amazing story, like an amazing Spider-Man story, one of the best like Spider-Man stories ever. It's one of the darker Spider-Man stories as well, but it's still one of the best for sure. It's a true show of Spider-Man's character and his love for Mary Jane. This ultimate version is similar in the sense that Peter does have that will to get home, but he doesn't know how. You know, he's not as experienced as the main Spider-Man, main 616 Spider-Man is, so he hasn't been fighting that often. He's trapped in a land he doesn't understand, and Harry is with him, weakened as well because it's been days since they've ate, and you know, Harry isn't a mutated person. You know, he's just a regular guy and he's weak. Kraven lets them loose to try and escape the Savage Lands while he attempts to hunt them. Classic chase that surprisingly takes a whole month because Kraven is also unfamiliar with these lands, but he eventually catches up to them as we find out he tortured Mole Man's minions for information on how their tunneling works. If you don't know, Mole Man has this secret where he can tunnel below the surface and find his way anywhere. It's not explained how he does it, he just does. And this is how Kraven finds Harry and Peter as they work together to catch Kraven off guard. And Peter starts to beat the shit out of him, but stops because he doesn't want to kill him, only for Kraven to pull a gun and shoot Peter through the stomach and catch Harry through the head. Then Mysterio appears and warns Peter that if he's already killed his friend, who knows what shape his family would be in. And so Peter escapes and finds MJ and his family. A lot of this is just time skipping. We don't see how he actually leaves Savage Land. He just dashes off. And he pleads to MJ to be on the run, for them to be on the run, to leave where they're living right now. A beautiful penthouse, by the way. Like, they live in an amazing penthouse, but they're gonna leave. This is really the beginning of Hickman using the seeds he planted to make some incredible reveals. We soon find out in an incredible issue 15 that Gwen Stacy is actually a part of a society of Mysterios, as it was handed down to her from her father. An issue that details how the Council of Mysterios work and how Gwen used that to save Harry Osborn. See, going back to Kraven's Hunt, when Mysterio stepped in, she actually made an illusion to make Peter and Kraven think he was shot dead. It was all smoke and mirrors, which is such a wonderful way to use Mysterio and then further use it to do a fake out. The rest of the series ends up building up to Peter finding out everything about what has happened with Gwen and Harry, and finding out how they look to wage a full-on war with Kingpin to dethrone him. Eventually, we also get an issue where MJ gets filled in, and in probably the best showcase of any character and agency in this series she has, we see the constant struggle she has been dealt with. This show of her being okay with what has been going on has all been a facade to make Peter feel free in what he's doing, but ultimately it has been killing her inside, and she's stricken with a terrible worry. She's a mother. She is a mother, and she's married to a man that wants to run around in tights to be a superhero. I don't care how you frame it. Like, as a mom and as a wife, you're going to be worried about their well-being, and about like what would happen if he did die. Now she's a single mother. I actually really loved this moment with Mary Jane, because I have been clamoring for some agency in this series for her, as so many changes happens to her husband and children, and we finally get to see how she feels. It's a great moment of vulnerability. It's late as hell, but it's nice. This then leads to the issue where MJ and Peter have another dinner with Gwen and Harry, which obviously parallels their first dinner together when they meet for the first time. And while that dinner was clouded in hidden messages and goals, this lays everything plain, telling MJ everything the three have gone through and what they plan to do to finish the job, completely unrooting Kingpin and the Sinister Six. And the conversation between MJ and Gwen in particular is extremely poignant. Gwen at this point has nothing to lose. Her dreams growing up were beaten out of her because she has to become Mysterio, while MJ was able to live the life she wanted. Something that really parallels Peter and Harry, where Peter was able to live the life that he wanted, while Harry had to take up his father's company. It's very interesting how they parallel each other, but Gwen is a lot more blunt and harsh about it. She knows what needs to be done to finish this, and she will do it at whatever cost. She has nothing to lose. She doesn't care if she even dies. The main plot in this has really stepped up. It's really ramped up. I am very impressed by what Hickman, Chiquetto, and David Messina have been doing. I'm really excited to see how they wrap this whole thing up. There was also a minor subplot in here where Peter and MJ's son, Richard Parker, ended up actually taking the Pico Matter suit, and this allows him to be kind of like a mini Venom, or like a mini like Spider-Boy. I don't think they have a name. Richard and the symbiote, they don't have a name. I think it's just like Spider-Boy or whatever. But they're kind of like a mini Venom, and you do see it. While Peter was gone in Kraven's Last Hunt, he kind of just took over as Spider-Man. And during this, he also meets a young Felicia Hardy, who is taking over as Black Cat while her father is injured. These two end up budding a bit of a relationship that ends up getting him in trouble, and he uses the Pico Matter suit to attack the Sinister Six in one of the most awesome pages in this run. And you do see why I call it Venom. Yeah, this book is great. I have been thoroughly enjoying it. I think this series has been extremely decompressed issue to issue, but reading it in a binge, like reading it all together, I think makes it a lot better. And the second year has been amazing. Ever since issue 12, it's been a phenomenal read. I'm very much enjoying it. Not the best Ultimate series by any margin to me, but definitely still a really good book. And I was wrong. I'm not afraid to say that I was wrong about Ultimate Spider-Man, but I was not wrong that Peter Parker and MJ are boring in this series. I will stand by that. But the rest of the series is phenomenal. Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy are amazing in this. Ben and J. Jonah Jameson are also phenomenal characters in this. I'm really interested in how the Sinister Six plot will completely unfold and wrap up by the end, but it's looking to be really good. I'm very excited. I think next issue, by the time this video comes out, the issue where they face, I believe, Mr. Negative will have already come out. Issue 21. I'm recording this like literally a day before issue 21 comes out. I can actually read it right now if I wanted to, but I'll wait. Like, I'll probably just make another video by the time Ultimate Endgame comes out as sort of like a catch-up video. But yeah, that's been Ultimate Spider-Man from issue 12 to issue 20. I am enjoying it. I'm having a great time. I will continue reading it until it ends, really. But yeah, like I always say, if y'all are new, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button for more videos. Comment what y'all think about Ultimate Spider-Man, this new Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm enjoying it, like I said, so I wonder what y'all are thinking about it now that we're nearing the end of this series. But yeah, I'll catch y'all next video, man. Peace.